Hello and welcome to the Extended Disc webinar. As with most of our webinars, we'll be recording it and posting it on our YouTube channel. Today, we are excited to start a new series of webinars called Ask Us at Extended Disc. We've received a lot of questions.
We sure did.
And thank you guys all for submitting them. Let me introduce myself for those of you who don't know. My name is Christina Bowser. I'm the Extended Disc trainer here at Extended Disc, and joining me is my colleague.
From 6 feet.
From 6 feet, we're social distancing, Markku Kauppinen. Hi, Markku.
Hello, everybody. Hi, Christina.
As I mentioned, we received a lot of questions. So again, thank you guys. What we did do was we sorted through as many as we could, and we just pulled out a few of the most commonly asked questions, and that's what we're going to highlight today. Since this is the first in our series of webinars, please keep your questions coming. You can send them to askus@extendeddisc.org, and we will answer them in a future webinars or directly to you. So let's go ahead and start with the very first question that we picked out, and it's, can my disc profile change over time?
Great first question, Christina. And thank you for everybody joining us. Hopefully you'll find this webinar helpful. Well, when people think about disc, they kind of thinking about the traditional disc. And with that, yes, people would take the questionnaire over time and the results would in fact change. But that created a problem because people started asking questions. Well, if the results change, who is the person really? Because ultimately what we're trying to accomplish is to help people modify their behaviors. However, with extended disc, we measure that really hardwired behavioral style, who we really are, because we think in order for us to make those behavioral modifications, be it leadership, communication, customer service, we need to have an accurate starting point for development. So we measure the hardwired disc style that remains quite stable over adult lifetime. So no, we do not expect to change. If the results are different, that's typically an indication, Christina, that something significant is happening in the person's life, but that's only a temporary change. That's a great question.
So simple answer, just to summarize, can my disc profile change over time? With extended disc, it should remain stable but not rigid.
That's a great way to summarize it. Thanks, Christina.
All right, so
what do we have next?
Let's go on. We got this question in many formats. So I just simplified it. So a lot of times the question itself is, what is the best style for? And you guys can fill in the blanks yourself. You guys know, you've asked about leaders, you asked about salespeople. So Markku, what is the best style?
Short answer, there is no one best style. Honestly, I wish there were, because it would simplify everything if we should say, if you're looking for the best salesperson or the fantastic leader, the disc styles would be this. It is not like that. There is no one best style. And as you know, the disc model itself, there's no good or bad categories. There's simply different behavioral styles. However, once we know what behaviors create success in a specific, let's say a sales role for these type of clients, selling this kind of product, then we can identify a little bit more accurately what are the success behaviors, and then we can compare individual results for that, against that, I should say, and then we can use that as a roadmap for development. But no, there is no one best style. Sometimes you hear people say that, however, when they say that, they are flat out wrong.
Yeah, we hear that quite often. And, really, I always tell people, let's just say you were hiring or, you were interviewing and two people came in and they were both D styles. Mm-hmm. What you would have to think about, what is their experience? What is their knowledge? What is their attitude? What is their skills? There's so many factors. And I always tell people, don't think of using the DISC report as a sole reason for making a decision about the person, but it provides a lot of supportive information. It can explain why people do what they do and what tends to motivate them.
Yeah, simply it answers how we do things, how we communicate, how we lead, how we sell. And again, it's a starting point for development. Always keep in mind, the reason we are using extended DISC is that we want to help people become more successful by helping them to make right decisions about how to modify behavior.
All right, so thank you. Short answer, no.
All right.
All right, next question. What are some of the main principles to remember when using DISC?
I'll let you answer this one because Christina's been doing virtual certification every single day. How, 3 months now or something like that?
Yes. So
So
for
you get
those
this.
of you that know, I am an S-style, so I could go on principles all day long. However, I'm just going to narrow down a few. So first off, what I would like for you to know, I would like for you to know that DISC itself has no value judgment. So there's no better or worse style. There are simply different styles. And
Yes.
by understanding the styles, we are better able to understand why people do what they do. So that's one principle. The second one is we are all styles. I know that sometimes you look at your own report and you think, wow, I wish I were, a certain style because maybe my bosses would respond more positively. However, you have D, I, S, and C in you. What I always say is what the DISC report tells you is these are the styles that tend to be more natural to you and don't take as much energy. And these are the styles that tend to take more energy for you. But
Right.
It's not about ability. You have the ability to be all four styles. So don't forget that. The next one is that extended DISC measures your natural style, your preferred way of doing things. Right. And sometimes we want to think about it as this amazing tool, which of course it is, but we don't want to overuse it or abuse what it measures. And so what extended DISC measures is how you prefer to do things. But also remember what extended DISC doesn't focus on, and it doesn't focus on a person's experience, on their attitude, on their values, on their skills, which of course make up who that person is. Mm-hmm. But we focus in on behaviors because behaviors are that aspect of who we are that we can make adjustments to.
Very good.
Last but not least, and like I said, I could go on for days. As a trainer here, we really want to make your lives easier as our clients, right? I mean, jobs are hard enough. We wear many, many hats. So for you, if you remember the 4 steps to effective interaction, and you build it into how you deliver a DISC training, how you debrief a DISC session, and for those of you, if you've heard of us in almost every single webinar, I don't think there's probably even one where we leave out the 4 steps. So the 4 steps, do you want to talk about what the 4 steps are?
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. We use the 4 steps in everything we do, any type of behavioral modification. The reason we use the 4 steps throughout everything is that, honestly, as human beings, we like simple stuff. If you look at like the previous question, is there a one ideal style? It would simplify things if it was that clear. However, here we can simplify, so facilitators, it really will save you a lot of time with whether you're using communication training, team development, leadership development, sales training. You can always use those 4 steps, and they are these. Once you get familiar with the DISC styles, what are those 4 DISC styles? What's D, what's I, what's S and C? Now you have the foundation and context in which to understand in the second step when you get your own report, where we measure that hardwired behavioral style and where we begin to develop that confident self-awareness. And by confident, I mean, we begin to realize that, hey, I have some blind spots. I have some development areas. And yes, I have some strengths, but I'm not going to take it for granted. I begin to really become more comfortable in who I am. The third step is I begin to identify the styles of other people. I begin to observe Christina, how she says things, what kind of words she uses, eye contact, tonality, and I look for consistent behavioral patterns so I can get more comfortable understanding and feeling that I think Christina is, now I know you're an S-style. So now I know who I am, I have a pretty good idea who you are, I get to the 4th step, which is the most important. Yeah. How do I modify my behavior? So the 4-step approach is really, I think, the foundation to everything you do, because assessments alone, they are interesting, they're fun. We love to read about the most important person in the world, but where the value is created is how do we modify behavior? And that's where you use those 4 steps to become successful.
Right, and we as trainers always say, if you build in the application piece, it's like Markku said, it's great to learn about ourselves. It's a great experience to come to DISC workshops, but how do you make it stick? And by building in that step 4, which is practicing and being consciously aware of adjusting our style, it makes that DISC workshop useful.
The great news if you're a facilitator is that you don't have to reinvent the wheel every single session. You can use the same fundamentals, maybe use some of the different exercises, and of course we have lots of those to share with our clients. But the process is the same, so it makes your life easier in terms of how much you have to prepare, how much time it's going to take, and it is the most important part. For the participants, it becomes something that they can reinforce. They can use our reinforcement reports as they move to different roles throughout their career. Maybe the role and the priorities change, but the fundamentals of how to modify behavior always stay the same.
Exactly. So we could go on, and like I said, about the 4 steps. So hopefully that just gives you a few principles to remember when we're talking about using DISC. The next question we have
is a good one.
I
like this one.
Can DISC be applied outside of my work? Well, we know that most of the assessments, when we're asked to take them, usually is generated through our work. But can we go beyond work?
Short answer, yes. And actually, you're right. People that take this typically through their employer at work, those kind of settings. So they kind of compartmentalize it as a work assessment. These principles apply to every aspect of your life. So for example, I have children and all of them have different hardwired DISC style. Talk about not simple. Everybody's different. And I think most parents say, oh, my kids are a little bit different. There's different styles. So I try to apply this at home with my children every day. Now, they make it challenging. If you're a parent, you know what I'm talking about. And what happens, they tell you something that, how does this happen? What did you do? And then we get emotional. And when we get emotional, and we talked about this in many webinars, strong emotions is the enemy of behavioral modification. But I try to count to 3 in my head. Okay, I'm dealing with my daughter. She's an I style. Therefore, this is how I need to modify my behavior. Now I go to my son's room, different style. I need to again stop and think about how do I most effectively interact with my son. Same thing applies to friends, our spouses, anybody in our life. Same 4 steps. Understand who you are, know who they are, modify your behavior. So yes, you can always use extended DISC.
And honestly, I'm going to tell you what's great about it is that I almost don't even have to worry about the fact that they will kind of take DISC and go beyond their work environment. Because what I found over the years is that people start to use DISC. And then when I kind of follow up with them, they're like, I went to the store, I talked to the person, I identified their style, and I adjusted, and it really worked. And then I went home and I did it again. So it almost builds upon itself because it works. It kind of spills across that work barrier.
It makes life easier. That's
Absolutely.
It saves you a lot of time, because imagine how much time we tend to waste if we don't know what we are, if we're not modifying our behaviors. And kind of, especially at home with stupid quarrels and stuff, and we get upset with each other. Why? If you know how to modify your behavior and take and control, the only thing we can control is our own behavior. I have 0 impact in trying to modify my kids' behavior or anybody's behavior. Only thing I do is control my own behavior, and it makes your life easier. So yes, you can certainly apply this everywhere.
And it works.
I think we have time for one more question.
All right, let's try to squeeze it in.
All right, yeah, it's a minute left. Let's go quickly.
All right, so the question is, are all DISC assessments the same?
No, no, they are not. We talked about this a little bit before. The main difference is, and 100%, just about 100% of our clients use some form of DISC in the past, as you know this very well. Well, they like DISC because it's easy. We can remember the 4 styles, and you can really put the DISC model into action in personal and professional lives very quickly. But the couple of differences that we hear from our clients all the time, I think the number one is you measure that hardwired behavioral style. You measure who the person really is, and that's what I want to know. Second is, I'm not forced to select from a handful of kind of off-the-shelf reports. Here's your leadership assessment. Here is your sales assessment. We can tailor assessments for you. And I think the third most common, actually two more. Third most common is you have different pricing options. We can provide you an option that works for your company and your financial resources. And finally, and this is kudos to you, Christina, and everybody in this office, we have the best support, most responsive support. We have the best support materials. Of course, I'm saying this, but no, I hear this from my clients every day. So no, they are not all the same.
So if your clients come to you and say, I've already taken DISC, your response should always be, that's great. Have you ever taken extended DISC?
You should.
You should. All right. Well, hopefully we got a few of those commonly answered questions today. Like I said, please keep your questions coming. This will be the first of the series. Our next webinar is Remote Worker Self-Study Workbook. It's an exciting new tool that we've developed, and Markku is cranking them out. So we want to make sure we are able to share all the new tools with you. It'll be coming up on Wednesday, June 17th at 3 p.m. Central Standard Time. And believe it or not, we have even more webinars coming up. We have the next Ask Us coming up in July. Please go to extendeddisc.org, our website, and click on the events tab and look for all the upcoming webinars.
Yeah, July, we'll have that one. And this is very timely one, the remote worker. No, I did not create it. I was involved in the process, but the response in the last week since we rolled this out, it's been unbelievable. So I think this is going to be a very exciting webinar.
All right.
Go to extendeddisc.org, click on the top right corner, check on the events tab. Even if you can't make the date and time for the webinars, be sure to register. We'll send you the recording. And with that, I'm going to say thank you, Christina. Thank you, everybody, and see you next time.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.